Welcome to Political Fight. We have a great guest, but first, our weekly update.
In this week's news, President Donald Trump reached his 100th day in office. Wow, I never knew one man could do such ridiculous and insane stuff in such a short period. The Trump administration put forth its much-anticipated tax plan. People may be happy with the cuts, but we may become a third-world nation. President Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, likely broke the law for not disclosing his financial relationships with Russia and Turkey. Michael Flynn sounds like we may need to lock him up. President Donald Trump and all 100 senators to the White House for an emergency briefing on North Korea, which leads to our North Korean updates.
Speaking about North Korea, here's our North Korean update. Can the Trump administration contain North Korea? Kim Jong-un is a selfish dictator who is threatening to create a nuclear holocaust. 2 weeks ago, North Korea tried to launch a missile in a city near Kama, which is on North Korea's east coast. Even though the missile blew up on takeoff, it was a direct threat to the U.S. 3 weeks ago, North Korea threatened to go to war with the United States. 2 weeks ago's missile was an act of terror intended to instill fear in Americans. Kim Jong-un was probably behind the missile because he wants to scare Americans and show them he is better.
Go. Today we have as our guest acclaimed playwright and producer Scott Carter. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. I am honored to be here.
Today is President Trump's 100th day in office. What grade would you give him? Has he accomplished anything of note?
I think I would give him a D-. I might be more harsh, but I don't want to discourage him too much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him a D- that he can build on. And then I think from the standpoint of many conservative people, I think that his biggest accomplishment would be his nomination to the Supreme Court of Neil Gorsuch, which was passed, and he, because he's a relatively young man, could still be on the Supreme Court 20, 30 years from now. So I think that's the primary accomplishment that I think that he's made so far.
Yes, but for conservatives, what's from your point?
From my point, I would see it in a completely opposite way. I would see that his main accomplishments are the fact that he didn't get things done, because I don't like a lot of his proposals. So the fact that he had a travel ban, which has failed twice, he tried to repeal Obamacare, but he wasn't able to. Those are the things that I like best.
Okay. Whose policy on North Korea has been better, President Trump or President Obama? Is a preemptive strike on North Korea the only way to stop North Korea from getting a nuclear weapon that could reach America? Is there still a chance for diplomacy?
I think there's always a chance for diplomacy to work. I think that this administration still hasn't filled a lot of the jobs that they're supposed to. So I think they have more soldiers working than they do diplomatists, ambassadors, and others in the State Department. So I'm doubtful of their ability to accomplish diplomacy, but yet I think there's always hope there, and I think that you have to think that the North Koreans don't really want war because they know that the United States would come out victorious in that conflict, but in doing so, it could be tremendously harmful to the South Koreans, to the Chinese, and to many others. When we have about 30,000 of our troops stationed in South Korea, and they could all be killed. So we should all hope for a diplomatic solution.
Okay, but should we have a preemptive strike?
I think we should not have a preemptive strike. I think we should hold back a strike as being the very last thing that happens. And I also think that Kim Jong-un actually just wants money from us, and he wants respect from us. And so I think those are two things that the United States could very much give, and then I think that would stop him from trying to start a war.
Okay.
What do you think about the numerous members of President Trump's family being members of his administration? Is this ethical? Is he really separated himself from his business?
I think that he has not separated himself from his business, and of course we never really know how exactly entwined he still is with his business because he hasn't released his tax returns.
Yeah.
And I think it's very bad that his daughter and his sons and his son-in-law have so much influence over him, and I think it shows his essential weakness.
So if his daughters and all those people said do stuff, he would do it.
I think that he has so few people that he really listens to who aren't threatening to him, that I think maybe he listens to his family too much.
What do you think about Ivanka being a part of his? Is it strange?
It is very strange. I think it's very strange,
Yeah.
And I
You
think.
should have him as a family member.
Yeah, and in fact, I was just talking after last night's show that, of course, your mother works on. I was talking to the former Secretary of Energy, and I was talking to him about climate change, and he was talking about this one idea that he really likes a lot. And then I felt sad because at the end of it, he said to me, "And you know what? Ivanka's for it. So maybe it can actually get accomplished." And I said, isn't that a sad state of the world that we're all depending upon people convincing her, because she really has no qualifications, and we didn't elect her. And I'm much older than both of you, and I remember when Bill Clinton came into office, and people resented the fact that his wife was given charge of trying to pass healthcare reform. And everybody said, we didn't vote for her, we just voted for him. But same thing can be said now, that people voted for Trump, but they didn't vote for Ivanka or Don Jr. or Eric or Jared.
Yeah. What do you think about the tax? What do you think about the tax plan of the Trump administration? Will it really create more jobs? Will we get more things for infrastructure in the military? Weren't these both things that Trump really wanted to spend money on?
I think that it's less of a tax plan than it is if,
It's a tax cut.
yeah, it's a tax cut for very rich people, that's true. And it's kind of a wish list, like people writing to Santa Claus for what they want. And it's sort of it's sort of Trump asking Santa to give himself tax breaks is what I think this is like. And so I think that it doesn't have any chance of passing, because they would need Democratic support for it, and I don't think they're going to get Democratic support. And I think a lot of Republicans won't vote for it. So, and there's so few details in it, we can't tell really what kind of a plan it is, because it shows so far in the one page. You two have done more. There's more writing on your pages of questions than are in his tax plan. So you've actually done more work than he has, and he's had 100 days to work on this. But I don't think it's going to pass, so I don't think we're going to find out exactly what kind of impact it would have.
Oath Day was last week. What do you think of President Trump's desire to defund the Environmental Protection Agency?
I think it could be cataclysmic for our country. I think that we're at a tipping point right now, that if we don't start to obey the laws of nature very soon, that I think we're going to get to a place where we can't return from. So what I'm hoping is that Ivanka is able to influence him and get him to save the earth.
But do you think that will happen?
I don't know, because I think that the Syria attack occurred because she came into the Oval Office and showed him pictures of dead babies.
Yeah.
And I think that's what prompted him to bomb Syria. And so I think she could come in from one of these talks with one of these more intelligent people and tell him, look, you have a son right now that's 10 years old, and you want him to grow up to live in a world that has clean water and clean air, don't you? And he's going to say, yes, I do. Of course I do, because I love my son. She's going to say, well, if you want that, then we need to save the earth now, and that might change his mind.
Why would he do that? Why would she do that? Doesn't benefit her.
Well, it might benefit her because she's got kids also, and she wants them to grow up in a world with clean air and clean water.
But that wouldn't help her company.
Well, you know what? This is one of the interesting things now that I was talking to the former Secretary of Energy, Ernest Moniz, about last night. The technology has advanced so much in wind power and in solar power and in other kind of reusable energy systems that it's now becoming profitable to be doing more in them and less in things like coal mines.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about President Trump's bombing? You were talking about Syria. How do you feel about President Trump bombing on Syria air boys for crossing the red line and gassing his own people? Did the attack really accomplish anything?
I don't know that it accomplished anything except it sent a signal that he's willing to do it, number one. And there's a certain moral righteousness to saying we as America, we're the indispensable nation, we're the most powerful nation in the world, and that we aren't going to let such a thing happen. Now, so that's good in a way. What's not clear is what his overall strategy is in that region, and it seems something that was done very impulsively on the advice of his daughter.
So you like how this is going to threaten Syria, that we have the power to, like, we will do this, we're not scared to launch a bomb at you, then why shouldn't we do this at North Korea?
Because I think that in North Korea they have much more destructive a much more destructive arsenal at their own disposal, and they could be killing all sorts of millions of people in South Korea very quickly if they thought they were under attack. I don't think there's a way to do a preemptive strike that's not going to have unintended consequences.
Okay.
But if you like, if you like the attack in Syria, do you like the Moab thing in Afghanistan?
The mother of all bombs. I saw less of a reason to be doing that, and this is the downside. On the one hand, I think there's something good about the Syria strike. On the other hand, there is a unreliable quality to Donald Trump that I think it's dangerous if he gets to enjoying too much bombing other places. Who knows where it could lead, and it's still not connected to any strategy that he's explained to America. I'd like him to go on television from the Oval Office and explain his exact thinking, which is what at different times, President Kennedy, President Reagan, every other president, President Bush, when he started the Iraq War, he went on television and explained it to the world why he was doing this, and I don't think President Trump has done that. I'm not sure he even knows himself why he does things.
Well, you said earlier because of his daughter. So.
Yeah, that's right, but he doesn't want to say that in public. He doesn't want to say, look, I don't know what I'm doing, but my daughter told me to do
But he
this.
could just say, like, my daughter is a good woman, so I'm going to listen to her.
Yeah, you're right, he could do that. And I think he has done that in the past. He's talked about how he thinks his children and his son-in-law are all very intelligent and how he relies on them a lot. So I think to a certain extent, yes, he has done that.